reaching 15 or even 16 Celsius, so remarkably mild for the time of year. Even where we've got the rain towards the northwest, temperatures will be in the double figures, milder for much of Scotland compared with a lot of the weather so far this year. But it's a dreary end of the day for the Northern Isles into the north and northwest of Scotland. The heaviest rain will be over the West Highlands, but not much rain at all for the east and south of Scotland, just a few spits and spots. Northern Ireland, this west-east divide sets up with western parts seeing some rain, eastern areas mostly dry. Areas of cloud running through Wales and western England, but largely dry here, whilst the clearest skies overnight will be through the Midlands, the south and southeast of England. Some mist and fog to wake up to on Wednesday morning, but otherwise it's a largely dry and bright start once again for much of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing that thicker cloud and those outbreaks of rain into Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. Eventually those spells of rain will push into Wales and Western England. This is a slow-moving weather front, but a damp day for many northern western parts of the country tomorrow. Meanwhile, plenty of sunshine for the East Midlands, East Anglia and the South East, and it's here where the highest temperatures will be. 17 Celsius most likely. There's a chance we'll see highs of 18 to 19 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Caution on the A87 Skye Bridge where high winds are affecting driving. On the A48M westbound, there is congestion from junction 29 at Castleton to junction 29A at St Mellons. In York, the A64 eastbound between the A1036 and the A19 has a broken down vehicle with one lane closed, clearing between 11:15 and 11 this morning. Northamptonshire's M1 southbound has a crash between junction 11 and junction 10A. And on the trains, Gatwick Express has no service and Great Western Railway has disruption on some routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
But one RSPCA branch has found a cheeky way to channel heartbreak into something useful.
Yes, this is a particularly unusual gift. But for just £10, jilted lovers can name a feral cat after their ex, just before it's neutered. Well, it's raised thousands already, but behind the laughs is a serious warning about growing pet welfare crisis.
Well, joining us now to discuss this is branch manager of the RSPCA in Altrincham, Julia Tucker.
Just an idea we had of a way of fundraising money for a neutering campaign we're running in our local area. Try something new, neuter your ex, and we have obviously hit a note with a lot of people who want to get revenge on their exes out there somewhere. So we've had over 800, nearly 900,000 views on our page, which is our biggest post ever. We've had donations from Australia, America, Europe. Everyone just desperately trying to get their ex's name named as one of our cats. And like I say, we've raised just over £2,000 at the moment towards the neutering campaign, which is amazing for our branch.
So if people want to get in touch and online and do this, what's the website that they need to go to?
Our website is Altrincham RSPCA, or we've got a Facebook page, RSPCA Altrincham. The website is, it's altrincham.org.uk. So yes, you can contact us that way, or we have a Just Giving page at Altrincham RSPCA as well. So if you go through the RSPCA website, you'll find us, or Google New to Your Ex, and I'm sure we'll spring up on that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, 9:30 on Tuesday the 24th of February, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce. And she's back, Miriam Cates.
Good to be here. Well, Lord Mandelson has been released on bail following his arrest on suspicion of misconduct in public office.
I am a fighter and not a quitter.
There he was, being re-elected as an MP in 2001, but will Sir Keir Starmer fight on or quit over this scandal? Of course he won't quit. Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey thinks he should go.
The fact that the Prime Minister has admitted that he knew that Mandelson continued his relationship with Epstein even after Epstein had become a convicted paedophile raises huge questions about the Prime Minister's judgment.
Will the ISIS bride return? Well, new reports today claim that Shamima Begum is planning to escape from Syria back to Britain via a small boat.
We can re-industrialise Britain. We can re-energise Britain. We can renew Britain. And yes, we can rebuild Britain.
That's Reform's new head of business, trade and energy and the deputy leader and deputy prime minister-elect, Richard Tice, setting out his plan to get Britain booming.
Centering victims in our criminal justice system.
And we'll be hearing more about David Lammy's justice reforms. Today, the Justice Secretary will set out his plan to cut the court backlog and how AI will help him to do so.
We're just hearing how appalling the mental health services and the police forces in Nottingham have been.
That was Emma Webber, the brave mother of Barnaby, who was one of 3 people murdered in Nottingham 3 years ago, and the inquiry finds the killer wasn't sectioned beforehand because of his skin colour.
And Inset weeks are being proposed. This morning, head teachers are being urged to group Inset days together for cheaper family holidays and so to improve pupil attendance. Do you think this is a good idea or not?
Say in my day, because I'm very old, we didn't have those inset days, but I know the school day is so much different now. You're an ex-teacher. Don't kids get in at 8 o'clock and they're still there at 4 o'clock?
Well, the teachers do. I think they used to be called Baker Days after the Education Secretary, Kenneth Baker, in the 80s, perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, so every so often teachers will have this training day because there isn't time in the school day to discuss new school policy. And the idea is to group these 5 together into a kind of extra week of holiday that parents can then use to take cheaper holidays. And I can see the advantages of it.
But I can also see the holiday companies thinking, yummy,
Exactly.
up go the prices.
Yeah. And I suppose, but if all schools chose a different week, how would families that have children in different schools cope? So there doesn't seem to be an easy solution to this. Yeah. And for parents who work, that's another week of annual leave that they've got to take all in one go.
As opposed to one day, farming off the kids for one day.
Grandparents or parents. So it is a really difficult one. But the holiday companies they're so cynical. I mean, we did take our kids out of school a day early to go on holiday for half term because we saved an enormous amount of money by doing so. How can you not?
It is appalling the way they rip families off.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's a
revolt. Exactly. Well, we'd love to know what you think about that and all the other topics we're discussing today. Send your views and comments to
GBNews.com/you'll say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much. The top stories this morning. Lord Mandelson has been released on bail after being arrested yesterday on suspicion of misconduct in public office. His arrest follows allegations the former Labour minister and ambassador to the US sent confidential documents to Jeffrey Epstein while in government. Elsewhere, GPs in England are to be paid £3,000 a year bonuses to prescribe patients weight loss drugs. The government is adding the incentive payments to the GP contract starting in April. And a baby boy has become the first child in the UK to be born using a womb transplanted from a deceased donor. Grace Bell, who's in her 30s and was born without a viable womb, says her little boy Hugo, who's now 10 weeks old, is simply a miracle. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, Miriam, you've been away for a bit, and what an extraordinary time. You've been away, the extraordinary arrest of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, and then yesterday, I think I sent you an email saying, I hear rumours Peter Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, is about to be arrested within minutes.
About 5 minutes later, you know, the GB News app sends you notifications. I heard this ping, and it said, Lord Mandelson has been arrested. So you clearly knew something that no one else did at that point.
Again, a seismic moment. I cannot recall in my long career writing about politics at Westminster since 1988 a former cabinet minister of such distinction. He was effectively Gordon Brown's deputy prime minister. First secretary was the title created for him. Business secretary, former EU trade commissioner, being arrested on that same charge as
Andrew,
as Prince Andrew. And I was just looking, Miriam, at how it's the definition of misconduct in public office is this. They've been acting as such willfully neglects to perform their duty and willfully misconducts themselves to such a degree as to amount to an abuse of the public's trust in the office holds without reason. Goes on and on.
Yeah.
It's a pretty rare offence, but and he's not been charged, of course.
No.
And
apparently it's extremely hard to prove because it's only in case law. There's nothing actually on the statute about it.
Yeah.
And you have to. There's no definition of what constitutes a public office.
Yeah.
So possibly anybody with good lawyers will find it quite straightforward to argue a case. The most recent cases it's been used in is these many cases, actually, where female prison officers have been found to have sexual relationships with prisoners, that they have been convicted under misconduct but in public office. But obviously it's a very broad offence, and it seems to be quite difficult to define. So whether or not that will be a stumbling block, I don't know.
I mean, my own view would be, I'm not a lawyer, though, that if you were a cabinet minister, paid minister of the Crown, that is public office. Now, Prince Andrew, of course, the former Prince Andrew, wasn't paid in that role.
That's true. So was he a public office official?
It was a role that was almost created because he succeeded the Duke of Kent, who got on with that job very quietly and uncontroversially, but unpaid. So is that public office?
And then I think the other problem is that you've got to prove that there was no reasonable excuse or justification. Now, that's something that a clever lawyer could come up with, surely, that there was some reasonable excuse, there was a justification for sharing the information.
What is clear, though, the arrest of Mandelson has created even more political difficulties for the Prime Minister, who appointed him to that job as ambassador to the United States, the most prestigious post in the diplomatic service by a long chalk. He wanted him there because of Trump and tariffs, and they wanted to secure a trade deal that his judgment now would be called into question even more. Bad enough that he had to sack him. Now he's been arrested.
Absolutely.
In full view of the media. And he was kept in for 9 or 10 hours.
Yes. Released at 2 a.m.
Amazing.
Although, in the long term, it's certainly bad news for Starmer and the Labour Party. But in the short term, if he is charged, then we can no longer talk about it. Possibly documents won't be produced.
And we know today in the House of Commons, the Lib Dems are going to move move a humble address, which is what the Tories did on.
They're cottoning on.
To try and compel the government to release papers, but that's about Prince Andrew. But you can be quite certain when that debate about Prince Andrew is held, they'll be talking about Lord Mandelson as well.
Absolutely.
Because MPs have got absolute privilege; they can say what they like in Parliament.
They can about anybody.
Although they will be told by the Speaker not to do anything which could prejudice any proceedings.
That's right. Well, someone who doesn't quite have that parliamentary privilege is our GB News Home and Security Editor, Mark White, who joins us now. Mark, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Extraordinary events yesterday with the arrest and then release of Peter Mandelson. Why was he arrested and released at such a late hour in the day?
Well, it was certainly unusual to see someone arrested at 4:30 in the afternoon. Normally, you would see an arrest phase, the same with search operations, happening in the morning. That's why, they call them dawn raids. But the difference is, of course, with a dawn raid, what you're looking to do is try to secure evidence before an individual that may be the subject of an investigation might have the opportunity to dispose of evidence or disappear themselves. In the case of Lord Mandelson, remember, it was more than 2 weeks ago, 17 days ago, the police officers first announced a formal investigation into Lord Mandelson and then began searches of his home address here in Camden in North London and also a second home that he owns in Wiltshire. So for many days after that, this very detailed search operation was underway. So in terms of the element of surprise, the dawn raid, there was no need for that. So you could have an appointment, if you like, a police arrest phase that was convenient for them. But yes, it was unusual to have it that late in the day, and that meant, of course, that Peter Mandelson was in police custody and being interviewed very late into the night. I was live into the Late Show with Bev Turner last night at midnight, and at that point there was no sign of Lord Mandelson. So I assumed actually he was going to bed down for the night in the police station and probably be interviewed again today. But then, of course, we got that news through in the early hours of the morning, 1:15, that he was released from Wandsworth Police Station in southwest London, and then arrived back here at 2 a.m. Now, as you'd imagine, there's no sign of him today. One, because all of the press are camped outside his home, and two, because I'm sure he's very tired after what would have been a very lengthy ordeal for him yesterday.
As with Mountbatten Windsor, Mark, this investigation into Mandelson will be almost certainly long and complicated.
Yes, they are. I was interested listening to you and Miriam about, you know, the legal terminology around misconduct in public office. When you cut through all the legal terminology, what it is effectively is the abuse of power, the abuse of power in a public office. And the allegations, of course, there are multiple allegations, but effectively it is the sharing of confidential and market-sensitive information with another individual. That individual, of course, being the disgraced and now late financier Jeffrey Epstein. That would constitute in itself, if they could prove that, absolutely a misconduct in public office, sharing documentation that should never have been shared. It would be seen as an abuse of power and someone's position in such a privileged position, privy to that kind of information ahead of time. But that needs to be proved in a court of law if we ever get that far at the end of the day. Because remember, just because we've had this data dump in the United States with the US Department of Justice sending some £3 million, 3 million documents dumped out there for people to pour through, and of course some of those documents relate to Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein, we're told. Just because you have the documents at one end to corroborate where these documents actually came from and whether there was any other discussion, you would want to secure data perhaps from the other end. Hence the searches here in Camden and in Wiltshire, looking at electronic devices that he maybe had during that period as well, if they're still in existence, and also relying on very significant amounts of information and documentation provided by the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, who of course was in office at the time that Peter Mandelson was the business secretary and was in effect the Deputy Prime Minister, the period where it's alleged these offences took place.
Gordon Brown is on the warpath, Mark. I mean, I can't recall a former Prime Minister being so active and letting the world know how active he is in demanding that the police go deeper and further into Lord Mandelson's affairs.
Yeah, listen, there's no doubt that Gordon Brown is very angry because, as he points out, the United Kingdom, listen, we are constantly, it seems, in crisis, but if you think back to that period where there was an international meltdown in the global banking system, and it was affecting, of course, the banking sector very severely here in the UK, government scrambling to do what they could to rescue the imminent collapse of the various major banks in this country and elsewhere. And he is incandescent at the possibility, the potential, the suggestion that sensitive information that may have impacted on the ability of the government at the time to do that very important job may have happened. And that's why he's been pushing for the police investigation. I think as well, if we're honest, he will be pushing as well, because there, at the back of his mind, at the front of his mind, will be a sense that yes, and he does acknowledge this, that there was a miscalculation in bringing Peter Mandelson back into government when he had been sacked from Tony Blair's government twice before. And that's the same kind of dilemma that the current Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is wrestling with as well, bringing this man back into government with so much in the way of baggage over the last couple of decades.
Absolutely, that's Mark White, our Home and Security Editor. Peter Mandelson's got more baggage than Selfridges. It's astonishing. He really has.
He's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Well, Lord Mandelson has not responded to previous requests for comment, but we do understand that prior to his arrest, his position was that he has not acted criminally and did not act for personal gain.
Still ahead, should all school Inset days, that's days when teachers do their training, be clumped together so that families can, on paper at least, get a cheaper holiday?
Well, up next, you will not believe the latest way that the ISIS bride, Shamima Begum, is planning to return to Britain.
And some breaking news. Sir Keir Starmer has said Russian President Vladimir Putin is standing in the way of a peace deal to end the war in Ukraine, and he's promised to stand by Ukraine for as long as it takes. This is Britain's Newsroom.
On GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Spring is certainly in the air across many parts of Europe, warm and sunny, but for Cyprus, for parts of Greece, remaining reasonably breezy, some high wind gusts certainly through the Greek islands, and plenty of showers for the islands of Greece as well as Cyprus. Meanwhile, Italy, for much of France into Spain and Portugal, long spells of sunshine with the exception of Portugal on Wednesday, and well above average temperatures, and it remains that way for the rest of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Who do we support?
Tottenham.
Tottenham Hotspur.
So you got a new manager today.
I had a very bad day and I thought to myself, if I can't make this possible, which is going to take a lot to do so, I would just love to make his dream come true. And I put a post out on X. His favourite player, James Madison, he messaged me and arranged that, and we met him 2 days ago.
I mean, isn't that wonderful?
He is.
And you must see the best side of people, whatever. And we haven't really touched upon how bad it is, but basically, without this American operation, life wouldn't be much to look forward to, would it?
No, so without the operation, he's going to get worse than what he is now. You know, he's going to lose a lot of functions. He's going to have a feeding tube. He won't be able to eat anymore. And he really loves his cake, like he loves pudding.
Like your swing, Harley.
And
nice.
He'll probably have to have a tracheostomy. He won't be able to speak anymore.
So it's bad.
It is bad, and I, you know, we don't say a lot of things to him, certain things.
Yeah.
But he knows, you know.
Look, he can really move there, can't he?
He can't dance anymore, though. People keep saying, let's get Harley dancing again. I'd love to see that again, him with his little brother. He's already lost so much, and I don't want him to lose any more. But without this surgery, he's going to lose so much more, and then at the end of it, his life in total will be gone.
£2.5 million. How much have you got?
I think we was at about 170k yesterday. We're so far off, and we've been given the timeline of late spring. Like, we haven't been given long at all to raise these funds.
The People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
She's the ISIS bride in my mind. She's the one who left Britain nearly 16 to go to Syria and took part in terrible things. Shamima Begum could be heading back to the UK because she's trying to pay people smugglers to get out of a detention camp and come here on a small boat.
Well, of course, Andrew's talking about the woman who fled the UK when she was 15, Shamima Begum, and she's been kept in various camps in Syria since 2019. And the journalist, not that we're biased, Andrew Drury has interviewed Shamima Begum 6 times. He's joining us now. Good morning, Andrew. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, in my view, this is an extremely complex case. I can completely understand the argument that she should not return here for security reasons, but nevertheless, she was a child when she went to Syria with other children, and there potentially should be a degree of sympathy for her plight, at least in that time. What do you think is the right process for dealing with Shamima Begum at this stage?
I'm glad you think she's got a right to come back, because I don't. I mean, I know about.
No, I don't think she's got a right to come back. I'm saying that the circumstances in which she left deserve a degree of sympathy.
Not in my view. I think the crimes that she committed whilst in Syria outweigh that. You can't use your age at 15. When she committed the crimes in Syria, there are victims over there, remember? There's victims. I met them in the camps. She's known for sewing a suicide vest. She's known for being part of the religious police. So I mean, she's got victims over there. Feel sorry for them, not for her.
Can't two things be true at once, Andrew? She was groomed as a child and then she went on to commit horrendous crimes. Cannot two things be true at the same time?
Yeah, but I think, yeah, they can be true, and they probably are. But there again, you're then presuming that she was groomed online, and this isn't just a belief from a young age of growing up. So this grooming word is quite complex. She didn't sit on videos. She spoke to me. I sat on a concrete slab outside a tent where she went into the situation. I said, were you groomed online? Were you watching online videos? I mean, I've met her. No, she didn't. This girl's manipulative, and she's not as kind of this wafy girl that the left wing like to portray. She's not this nice girl, this poor little girl, poor innocent girl at school that watched nasty videos online. She's not. She's not
Andrew,
like that. That's not her character.
Andrew, my worry would be if she came back here. She was so heavily indoctrinated, so radicalised that her heart may still be filled with hate, and I wouldn't want her living in my street.
Well, no, and also you must be aware that some of those girls in there are still speaking to ISIS splinter cells now. So the camp that we're involved with the camp regularly, day to day. So the ladies in charge of the camp said to us the phones have been taken off of some of these girls are still speaking to ISIS. They're still doing that. How do we know she's not one of those? And she's a manipulator. I mean, I know her better than anybody. There's nobody in the news media or anybody else that knows her better than I do. I've sat down and spoken to her. I actually sympathised with her at the beginning. I had that belief that she was radicalised. And over a period of 3 years of interviewing her, I saw what's behind those eyes. She's not this innocent character. She's not this poor creature that's been, I don't know, drawn into some cult and sexually trafficked. She wanted to be there. She really did. And these messages she sent me just recently, or Hoda sent me, a best mate, indicate really that she hasn't changed. She's still trying to manipulate people. She's trying to manipulate me to give her money.
What do the messages say?
Well, it started a while ago. She, for the last 2 years, I haven't seen her, but she's been sending me messages from the camp. Generally, they're fishing to get me to strike up a conversation with her. But the recent ones were, it started innocently, and then it went on to say, look, if you want to interview, you can be the only one that's got Shamima. When she leaves the camp, if you give her 35,000, That's how it started, Andrew. It started at 35,000, and then I said that you can't. That's immoral. You can't do that, and I'm not prepared to do it. And then she started referring to money as mints and jelly babies. If you look at my interviews, she was saying, well, I can reduce it down to 15,000 because I've got somebody you can give the money to outside the camp, and then what they'll do is they'll then take us out of the camp, get us to into Turkey, and that's when we'll go to we'll claim asylum inside Turkey. We'll go to our embassies and claim asylum. So they've already got somebody ready to get them out. I mean, this heavy weight on my shoulders having this information. Believe me, I didn't want this news story to come out. I went through the process of speaking to my local MP, who did nothing, just sent me back and said, speak to the police commissioner. I then went to the intelligence services, gave them the information. All that was an answer phone service that they ignored. Then I went to my mate Richard, who's got people in Westminster. They ignored it, both Conservative and Labour. You know, we've got potentially people being smuggled out of prison camps, and our government don't care. They really don't care. Our information's just left.
Yeah. Andrew, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for your time this morning. That's journalist Andrew Drury.
Blood money.
I know, absolutely. Well, I wonder what the chances...
And just remember, she was just 3 months from her 16th birthday. This government is giving the vote to 16-year-olds because they think they're adults.
Yeah,
so
but you cannot have it both ways.
She was 3 months from being an adult in the eyes of our Prime Minister, so she can stay where she is. She can rot there for all I care.
Well, coming up, Justice Secretary David Lammy has a new tactic to tackle the court backlog. We'll bring you all the details. You're watching Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M8 eastbound at junction 16, lane 1 remains blocked due to a broken down vehicle. Meanwhile, on the A48M westbound, there is significant congestion stretching from junction 29 at Castleton to junction 29A at St Mellons. Additionally, on the A19 northbound, the exit slip to the A184 roundabout is affected by a broken down vehicle, resulting in one of 3 lanes being closed. Turning to trains, Gatwick Express has no service operating currently, while Grand Central is reporting minor delays affecting some routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win £30,000 in tax-free cash. You wouldn't need to treat yourself to a holiday. There's also a terrific £10,000 to spend on a Riviera travel holiday of a lifetime for 2. So whether you fancy a cruise or an escorted tour, you'll have over 30 worldwide destinations to choose from. But you have to hurry because time is ticking.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday the 24th of February. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Mandelson, released on bail after his arrest, calling into question how does the Prime Minister navigate this latest scandal which he created.
Well, the world's press is camped outside Peter Mandelson's home here in North London. No sign of him yet, but then that's probably unsurprising given that he didn't get back home until 2 a.m. this morning.
Elsewhere, there are new reports out today that claim that the ISIS bride, Shamima Begum, is planning to use people smugglers to get her back to Britain in a small boat.
We can re-industrialise Britain. We can re-energise Britain. We can renew Britain. And yes, we can rebuild Britain.
This morning, Reform's new head of business, trade and energy, Richard Tice, setting out his plan to do what he says will get Britain booming again.
Centering victims in our criminal justice system.
That's David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, who today will be setting out his plans to cut the court backlogs and about how artificial intelligence will help him to do so.
Farmers Unite. Birmingham is hosting the National Farmers Union's conference today, where the theme will be building a resilient food system.
And Inset weeks are being proposed for schools. This morning, head teachers are being urged to group together training days so that families can enjoy cheaper holidays and hopefully improve pupil attendance. Good idea or not?
So Lammy's going to talk about AI, I guess, to increase or improve admin and stuff. But what about his outrageous plan, in my view, to restrict the number of jury trials? Because he says he wants to speed up the justice system. It won't make any difference at all.
No.
Juries don't delay it.
No, and so few trials are actually in front of juries anyway. It won't make much difference. One of the proposals is to say that there's essentially an unlimited budget for getting as many cases through the courts as possible over the next few years, which in theory is a good idea, but we don't have unlimited budgets in this country. Public finances are so tight, I'm not quite sure how that's works. But AI, what's it going to say? Ask Alexa, is this person guilty? Yes or no?
But on these judges, could they not sit on a Friday afternoon? Could they not go on till 5 o'clock? Could they not sit on a Saturday morning, maybe, just to speed it up? Because the delays, rape victims in particular, sometimes have to wait 2 or 3 days. That is too long, Miriam.
And if you think some of the other backlogs that built up during the pandemic, inevitably, like passport allocations, there was a huge delay there, but they have caught up by deploying extra staff. It is more difficult in the justice system. There's so many moving parts, but something has to be done, as you say, because justice delayed is justice denied.
And restricting our right to juries is not the answer. Now, as ever, we want to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much. The top stories. Lord Mandelson has been released on bail after being arrested yesterday on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The former cabinet minister was driven away from the police station around 1:15 a.m. this morning and has returned to his North London home. His arrest yesterday afternoon follows allegations the former Labour minister and ambassador to the US sent confidential documents to Jeffrey Epstein while in government. Sir Keir Starmer, who has insisted he will never walk away, has claimed Mandelson lied about his connections to Epstein during the vetting process and apologised to victims of the paedophile for appointing him. Lib Dems leader Sir Ed Davey spoke to GB News.
I was surprised when he was appointed in the first place, given his track record of having to resign or be sacked from a number of offices. But the fact that the Prime Minister has admitted that he knew that Mandelson continued his relationship with Epstein even after Epstein had become a convicted paedophile, raises huge questions about the Prime Minister's judgment. And then you add to that his decision to appoint Matthew Doyle, Lord Doyle, to the House of Lords. I think it's a catastrophic failure of judgment by the Prime Minister.
The Liberal Democrats will push for documents on Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's appointment as a UK trade envoy to be released following his arrest last week. Today, the party will table a motion to force the government to release files on his appointment to the role in 2001, including those relating to vetting. It comes after the former prince was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Police had previously said they were considering investigating him over allegations relating to his association with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, and were reviewing allegations he shared confidential material. And just some breaking news to bring you in the last few moments that comedian and actor Russell Brand has pleaded not guilty at Southwark Crown Court to 2 further sexual offences, including rape. I'll have more on that story in the next hour. In other news, it's understood a suspected rapist awaiting trial has been mistakenly set free from prison and has left the country. The man from London was on remand at HMP Wormwood Scrubs, charged with multiple allegations of rape, sexual assault and violence against a woman. After a pre-trial hearing in early February, a court official wrongly told the prison the defendant could be set free on bail, and he was later released, leaving the country soon afterwards. Details of the case emerged as a top judge called on the government to intervene to try to ensure the man returns to stand trial next Monday. The man, who is in his 40s, cannot be named for legal reasons. Elsewhere, the UK has imposed further sanctions aimed at squeezing Russia's oil and gas industry to limit funds for Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine. The package, the largest imposed since the early months of the war in 2022, includes pipeline company PJSC Transneft, which the Foreign Office said was responsible for transporting more than 80% of Russian oil exports, along with 175 companies and 48 tankers involved in shadow fleet operations to move Russian oil. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper, who's visiting Kyiv, said Russia is now 4 years into what Putin believed would be a 3-day invasion. And reflecting on today, 4 years since Russia's full-scale invasion, Defence Secretary John Healey says it's been 4 years of failure for Putin. GPs in England are to be paid £3,000 a year bonuses to prescribe patients weight loss drugs. The government is adding the incentive payments to the GP contract starting in April. GPs will also get extra money worth about £1,000 a year for referring patients on to weight loss programmes. Ministers said it was important that patients who could benefit from weight loss support were able to access it. But obesity experts warned the scheme would have limited impact because the drugs were still being tightly restricted on the NHS, and this move would do nothing to widen the eligibility. The incentive payments will only apply to Manjaro. The number of workers on 0 hours contracts has hit a record high ahead of the government's planned crackdown on the practice from next year. A surge in 16 to 24-year-olds and workers not in full-time education helped drive the number of people employed on the contracts to 1.23 million in December. Analysis by the Work Foundation at Lancaster University, based on ONS data, revealed that that was 91,000 increase on a year earlier. The Department for Business and Trade said it will ensure people can have the security they need by giving eligible workers the right to guaranteed hours. And a baby boy has become the first child in the UK to be born using a womb transplanted from a deceased donor. Grace Bell, who's in her 30s and was born without a viable womb, says her little boy Hugo, who's now 10 weeks old, is simply a miracle. Hugo was born just before Christmas last year, weighing nearly 7 pounds at Queen Charlotte's and Chelsea Hospital in West London. Surgeons call it a groundbreaking moment which could give hope to so many more women with a similar diagnosis. One of the lead surgeons spoke about the miracle moment.
As the baby was handed over, the parents said they were actually going to call the baby Hugo Richard. And I've delivered over 1,000 babies in my life. Never has a baby been named after me. So it's that, I have to say, made me cry. Straight up. So, yeah, it's been quite an event.
And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more from me in half an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
And we've got some breaking news. Russell Brand has pleaded not guilty. He arrived in court this morning facing 2 new charges, one of rape, one of sexual assault against 2 further women, which allegedly took place in 2009. We've got our national news report here. Charlie Peters. Charlie.
Well, Russell Brand did arrive at Southwark Crown Court earlier this morning. I hope we can bring you that footage now of him arriving. You can see there in a fedora and a hat with sunglasses, holding a book, just covered by our strap at the bottom of the screen there. But the book said Holy Bible on it and had plenty of post-it notes sticking out. As he arrived, he was asked...
That's a statement.
As he arrived, he was asked how he felt, and he said, blessed, telling reporters as he arrived at the Crown Court. We're seeing that just from the last half an hour or so. Proceedings got underway very recently where he did plead not guilty to those 2 new sexual offence charges at the Crown Court. That's 1 count of rape, 1 of sexual assault. It's worth reminding he has already pleaded not guilty to several other charges. Those relate to alleged rapes and indecent assaults in Bournemouth and in Westminster between 1999 and 2005. These 2 new charges that he has pleaded not guilty to today are in relation to 2 further women who have more recently made those allegations, and a trial is scheduled to begin at Southwark Crown Court on the 16th of June this year in relation to those 5 original charges. We're still going to wait for a trial date for the 2 new charges that he pleaded not guilty to today. Now, Russell Brand, he has rejected these allegations since they were first made public in 2023, and the 50-year-old is due to face that trial in June later this year, still waiting for a trial date on these 2 new charges which he has pleaded not guilty to today. Arriving at the court, as you see, in a hat, sunglasses, smiling, greeting people, holding a book that says the Holy Bible on it, telling reporters he feels blessed.
Charlie Peters, thank you very much for that update. Well, moving on now, Lord Mandelson has been released on bail after being arrested yesterday on suspicion of misconduct in public office.
Let's talk to our GB News Home and Security Editor, Mark White, who is outside Mandelson's house in North London. I imagine, Mark, you're there with quite a lot of members of our profession.
You could say so. This might be not the best shot, but I'm just going to ask Lucia if she can just quickly, don't mind about that, Lucia, just give them a quick shot. You can see the world's press are camped here in Camden in North London for, of course, a shot of Lord Mandelson should he decide to leave his home address. I have to say, understandably probably, because so many members of the media are here, he's been keeping a fairly low profile. The blinds are drawn in his property and he's not been sort of seen out much at all. Last night he was back here at 2 a.m. in the morning, so again, understandably, he may well be just sort of resting up today. We don't know how things will progress going forward, whether he will be called back in to speak to police for subsequent follow-up, statements, questioning that they might well do. And the next stage further down the road might, of course, be charges if we ever get to that point. But of course it could be that we don't ever get to that point. Lord Mandelson has always denied any wrongdoing. We have reached out to him in recent days for comment. He hasn't commented, but subsequent or previous, I should say, statements that he has made are statements which suggest that he did nothing wrong, with regard to the allegations. Now, the allegations are misconduct in public office. It's claimed that he provided information, confidential and market-sensitive information to another, that other person being the disgraced and now late financier Jeffrey Epstein. The police relying on that data dump of files from the Department of Justice in the United States, also from documentation provided by the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, and any evidence that they may have gathered during the searches here in Camden and at his other home address in Wiltshire. So, as I say, Lord Mandelson on bail at this stage, no indication that he's returning back to be interviewed by the police or indeed charged by the police at any time soon.
And of course, Mark, he's still Lord Mandelson. He's retired. He's quit the House of Lords, but he's still got his title. We know in the Parliament today, the Lib Dems are going to be kicking off about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. I suspect there'll be talk soon that should he have his peerage stripped from him. We haven't that hasn't been done since 1917, and that was an Irish peer who was judged to be a traitor in the First World War.
Yeah, it was the beginning of the month where he decided that he would resign effectively from the House of Lords, no longer undertake any duties in the House of Lords. But you're quite right, he remains a peer unless and until the government brings forward legislation to strip him off that peerage. But what this does, this whole episode, separate from the allegations that he's facing, is it brings everything back into the spotlight in terms of what the current Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, did in terms of appointing him the UK ambassador to the United States, and whether there was a serious misjudgment in the way in which the Prime Minister approached that. And that's why, of course, there is this clamour for the release of these vetting files, these documents that the government says it is minded to release. But that could be problematic as well going forward, because you've got a police investigation. The last thing that they want to do is, you know, in any way sort of impact that investigation. And you might think, well, the two things aren't really connected, but you've got what's called character evidence. And if you're a defence team going forward, what you don't want is information going into the public realm that points to someone's potential bad character, because you could then, as a defence lawyer, perhaps argue that that is prejudicial to your client's ability to get a fair trial further down the road. So that might be an impediment to at least some of these vetting documents being released in a timely manner by the government.
Well, Mark White, thank you again for that update on this massive story, Andrew, isn't it?
And of course, Starmer did say that they've got to clear out the House of Lords of some other former convicted criminals.
Yeah.
I mean, there are two in there who were sent to prison for fiddling their House of Lords expenses, paid for by the taxpayer. They went to prison, now back in the House of Lords, legislating and claiming expenses again. Could you make this up?
Well, there was a time, I think maybe about 20 years ago, when things felt very stable, and in fact the late 1990s were called the end of history, weren't they, by some Liberal commentators, the idea that we'd reached this kind of equilibrium. But it doesn't feel like that now. Everything feels very insecure again, doesn't it?
When we had leadership.
Possibly. Or before liberalism had done its damage. Yeah. I don't know, one or the other.
Well, a lot of the liberalism was under flipping David Cameron, that wretched coalition.
But it's had a long tail, hasn't it? You know, the Blairite reforms, of which Peter Mandelson was absolutely key
to it,
have taken a long time to show their damage, whether that's the rule by Quango or the Equality Act or many things that have made it difficult to govern.
Human rights.
Exactly. When Blair first introduced them, nobody, I don't think, realised quite what a long tail they would have.
And of course, the Conservatives, when they got in with Cameron, I wrote that story, which David Cameron denied on the radio. I wrote it was a front-page story in the Times or Times, I think, that he said at a private dinner, "I will be the heir to Blair." Remember that? And George Osborne was at the dinner and said, and they shouldn't be ashamed to say that. Yes, he should.
Yeah.
Yes, he should, as a Tory leader.
Yeah.
And eventually he conceded he had said it. He had said it. There were 14 people at the dinner.
Gosh.
They heard him say it.
Gosh. And
it was a significant moment now in hindsight, because what he did was he kept the Blairite revolution going on.
That's very interesting. And didn't Thatcher say, that when asked what was her greatest achievement, she said New Labour, because she thought that the Thatcher reforms had basically destroyed socialism within the Labour Party, which it did for a generation. But what it was replaced with, this technocratic managerialism, has not been any better.
No, no. And of course, the first thing David Cameron had done was ditch the Human Rights Act.
But could he have done that in coalition with the Lib Dems?
Should have gone into coalition with them. That's the point.
Oh, hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Now, we've got to read this out because Lord Mandelson has not responded to previous requests for comment, and I don't think he'd pick up the phone if I called him, to be honest.
Try it.
But we understand that prior to his arrest, his position was that he has not acted criminally and did not act for personal gain.
Well, it's time now for the Great British Giveaway. If you've had enough of our miserable weather and our miserable politics, how do you fancy a luxury holiday for two worth £10,000 and £30,000 in cash? Here are all the details you need.
There's just 3 days left to see how you could win, as there's cash and a holiday up for grabs in our two-part Great British Giveaway. First, you could bank a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And thanks to Riviera Travel, you could be jetting off on a £10,000 dream holiday for two people. With flights, transfers and luxury accommodation included, you'll be able to find the perfect match from over 30 global destinations on offer. But don't miss out, as lines close this Friday. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes are closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, still ahead, Environment Secretary Emma Reynolds will address the National Farmers Union Conference in 2026 today. We'll be all across it on GB News. But up next, the ISIS bride Shamima Begum plotting her return to Britain, this time via a small boat.
We'll be going through that more with my, what's it called? My podcast sparring partner, Kevin Maguire, Pierce versus Maguire. I don't know, best mates. We're mates. And, of course, lovely Dr. Rennie Hunterkamp. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
3 miles from Tain, but obviously feeling the pinch a bit there, Sam. But tell us about specifically in your own life what motivated you to hit the highway.
Yeah, so about 14 years ago, I made a decision I couldn't be here anymore, and luckily somebody found me. I was very, very lucky, and yeah, it had some incredible support around me and people who rallied around me and got me to a better place, really, Martin.
Well, you got Union flags on your back there, flapping along, so no doubt you catch a lot of attention as you're walking along the hard shoulder. People peeping their horn and getting involved and saying hello to you?
It's amazing. Honestly, I've been given cornettos, I've been given mini eggs. Honestly, Martin, the general public, I mean, they really back our British farmers, and farming is in crisis at the minute, Martin. And, you know, one farmer a week takes his own life. It's incredibly sad. They're the backbone of this country.
Sam, a lot of people listening in will be absolutely behind you on that, although not walking alongside you. That'd be too much like hard work. But on a serious point, you're the co-founder of the We Are Farming Minds. And how can people get involved? You're probably trying to raise a few quid. How can people get stuck in, mate?
So we're raising money for the National Federation of Young Farmers, our next generation of farmers, and letting our youngsters of our farming community to know that we're right behind them. Mental health, we need to break down that stigma. We need to normalise it. We need to talk about it and know that there's some incredible support. There's some organisations, fantastic organisations that are there. So I'm raising money for our next generation of young farmers, and we need to look after them because we need to keep the food on our table to support our nation.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's 25 minutes past 10, Andrew, and I am watching Britain's Newsroom.
Yes, sorry. I was talking to... He's here, isn't he?
Here.
Lovely Dr. Renee and Kevin Maguire's here, who is of Pierce versus Maguire podcast. We are going to be talking again, Kevin, about your favourite subject, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
Yeah, what a disgrace to the royal family. I know he denies everything, but, you know, the people who are angriest are people who are monarchists, who support the royal family because they feel it's been ruined, destroyed from the inside.
But it's not a constitutional crisis, Rennie, it's just a scandal.
It's a scandal. Look, they've done everything they can and they will do more, I'm sure. I just find it quite amazing that the focus has all been on Andrew, not once on any of those billionaire men in America who've been linked to Epstein. This is a distraction from what's really in the Epstein files, as far as I'm concerned.
Is it also a distraction, actually, from government? Because, of course, this is an important news story and you can't blame the newspapers or the TV channels for covering it. But if the government now spends time putting through Parliament a bill to take Andrew out of the line of succession and to defend itself on the Peter Mandelson accusation, while the benefits system is in crisis, people are crossing on small boats, it's a massive distraction, isn't it?
Governments do more than one thing, as we know. They're looking at those issues. No, well, you're right. A lot of problems are very difficult to resolve. If it was the only thing they were doing, then yes, you'd criticise them. But no, they're not. They haven't decided to do it yet, but you've seen the pressure building from Australia, although he is the Prime Minister there, the Premier there is a Republican.
New Zealand once jumped in.
But which country of those 15 that have the royal family as their head of state would want to keep him?
I have a worry about this. By the way, you also have to get the Australian states governments to agree to it as well. But what if one of the Caribbean realms says, yeah, he can go, because you need approval from all, but it's got to be tied to reparations. No, it's entirely possible.
But that would be ridiculous.
It's
reparations are
entirely
ridiculous.
possible. And the king, it can be wet sometimes, let's be honest, and may go down that route. Maguire will probably be agreeing, of course.
Look...
I believe in using the international aid budget to restore those countries that we pillaged.
Kevin, it would be billions.
No, but...
Billions and... How do you quantify
trillions.
How much?
They're asking for trillions.
Exactly.
They're asking
and how do you quantify
And you would never get those countries to the same level that we're at. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at it. You know it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. And who are you going to give the money to?
Yeah, quite.
Who?
Actually, in the world, we're about, was it 22, 23 down per capita wealth? We're not the world's richest country, but we did do well out of the empire, and some countries did badly when we pillaged.
And lots of countries did very well as well.
I think what is more likely? How many countries in the Commonwealth? 50, 60?
50, no, it's about 53.
53. There's only 15 now have the royal family as their head of state. I just find it ludicrous that they still do. I think they're more likely to say, you get him out the line of succession or we're becoming a republic.
I don't actually think they should act to remove from the line of succession because it's so unbelievably unlikely he'll ever be king. He's 66.
The bubonic plague takes out the entire House of Windsor.
There'll be a jab
and if you do it, you do set a precedent, and history would teach you that once you set a precedent, it takes a lesser and lesser and lesser offence each time for this kind of action to be brought forward.
Rather than doing it that way, because you're absolutely right, when do they next say, oh, actually, we don't want him in or her in the line?
We don't like her dress sense.
The other way to do it would be to say, it's ridiculous that we have 50 people in the line of succession. Let's take it down to 5 today.
Yeah. Right.
Let's change that. That's the way to do it.
I think that will happen when William becomes king.
Yep.
He'll keep
we
it
could
to
swap
his
him for
immediate
Princess Anne,
family.
because she's not in
Keep
the manor.
Princess Anne there because everybody loves her and she's a great, hard-working royal. That's assuming that we lose the king in the next couple of years. But I do think that will happen, and it's logical. Actually, why is Zara Phillips in the line of succession when she doesn't do royal duties?
It's just
and never has.
order, isn't it?
You're right. You would need bubonic plague or kind hearts and coronets.
Yes, exactly.
Of a lot of mysterious.
That's a wonderful film.
Death.
Yeah, it is.
Fantastic. But it is a ridiculous system. You get this family coming down the line, and you get the whole lot of them. They're costing you a fortune.
They're not
half
costing
$1 billion
a fortune,
plus in lost tax,
They're
security,
not
and
costing
sovereign
But Kevin,
rights.
this is not an official thing, this line of succession. It's literally the order of birth. I mean, there's not some kind of made-up process. You might be 99th in the order of succession. That doesn't mean you get any
showing what a ridiculous system it is.
Do you know, I remember being at a wedding, sitting on this very nice table at this wedding reception. I hadn't been to this ceremony, and I was chatting to this woman, and it turned out she was 48th in line to the throne.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Do you get a card from the Queen? She said she'd never met the Queen, and she's 48th in line to the throne.
We could set up a business, working out what people are. There must be a way.
Well, she's probably 62 now because there's been quite a few children born since then.
Well, my mother has just sent me a website that I looked at just before he came in. Are you related to the Queen? And you put some details in and they gather your data and they work out how...
you were all related to each other if you go far enough back.
Have you got German ancestry?
Mine's
like the
Dutch,
Queen?
really, but I have German too.
So you could be related to the Dutch
topic slightly.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway, you know it's nonsense, the whole line of succession.
Now, we've got to show you a photograph. If you're on the radio now listening, just look at this photograph and see who it may remind you of. It's going to show. Who? Now, that person on the right of the screen is in the car. He's in the car with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and I put mischievously on my social media account.
I saw.
There are dastardly rumours that Kevin Maguire
is
in the car with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And I'd made the point that even a ghastly person like Andrew Mountbatten Windsor wouldn't want an old Republican like Maguire in the car.
May I just
is it you? Tell us. Have you been earning on the side?
No, it can't be me in that picture. Because that person isn't laughing.
And you'd be laughing your head off.
I would be laughing like a dream.
I think it's a conspiracy.
I know, well, you know...
So we've got to talk about Mandelson. You and I have known him... Well, I've known him since 1988, 89, when you and I started at Westminster at the same time. He was an omnipresent figure even then. He was Labour's spin doctor, spinning for Neil Kinnock. And he used to march into our newspaper offices.
We glide!
Yeah, glide.
We glide without casting a shadow.
Slide under the door, as I often wrote. And he would point at various journalist screens and say, "You can't say that." Isn't that true?
It is. I was never important enough.
No.
I was in.
Well, I
was kind of considered in the Gordon Brown camp. He was in the Blair camp.
Yeah.
But
there
he
is
was.
no doubt
he
that nothing happens or has happened to this point in the Labour Party
without Mandelson.
Mandelson say so.
He was so.
That's not true.
Corbyn got elected.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
But up until Brown, I mean, he was so important, Kevin, wasn't he? And remember what he called his book, The Third Man.
That's right, which were rather grandiose. But yeah, you said it was Blair, Brown, and me, and he's Labour royalty.
He is.
So you can go back. His grandfather was Herbert Morrison, who was Clement Attlee's deputy prime minister and that great reforming post-war government, created the NHS and so on. And he's been a cabinet minister 3 times. He's effectively de facto prime minister. Blair, Brown and Starmer all given jobs, and the one who'll pay the biggest price now is going to be Starmer, who made him our man in Washington.
Stunning fall from grace.
But we mustn't forget that along this pathway, how many times has he had to resign because of scandal? I mean, they don't learn. It is the definition of insanity.
He's a fighter, not a quitter.
And Kevin, just to go, you've been mates with Gordon Brown for years. He is on the rampage. He's treating this like a religious crusade with such other. He wants Mandelson to pay for what he regards as a terrible breach of trust when he was Prime Minister, and he brought him back.
The son of the mans can't believe what he's alleged to have done in terms of sending documents, sensitive financial documents.
Sometimes within minutes of being in his inbox.
So Gordon Brown will feel he'll feel he shouldn't have appointed him. He'll feel he was betrayed, and he'll want revenge.
And looks like he's getting it.
Well, I think it's going to be a very slow burn, this story. But thank you so much to our panel. We'll see you again in an hour.
Yep. And now time for our 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much. The top stories this hour. Comedian and actor Russell Brand has pleaded not guilty at Southwark Crown Court to 2 further sexual offences, including rape. Lord Mandelson has been released on bail after being arrested yesterday on suspicion of misconduct in public office. His arrest follows allegations the former Labour minister and ambassador to the US sent confidential documents to Jeffrey Epstein while in government. GPs in England are to be paid £3,000 a year bonuses to prescribe patients weight loss drugs. The government's adding the incentive payments to the GP contract starting in April. And a baby boy has become the first child in the UK to be born using a womb transplanted from a deceased donor. Grace Bell, who's in her 30s and was born without a viable womb, says her little boy Hugo, who's now 10 weeks old, is simply a miracle. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in half an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, still ahead on Britain's Newsroom, NFU President Tom Bradshaw is addressing the National Farmers Union Conference in Birmingham today. We'll bring you all the best bits.
But up next, schools are being asked to consider Inset week so families can book cheaper holidays. How's that going to work? We're not sure. We're going to be joined by one school who've done just that for 7 years. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hi there, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud across the UK today, but some sunshine will come through, especially for central and eastern parts of the country where it will be very mild for the time of year. A brisk south to southwesterly wind continues and that will bring a bit more rain by the afternoon into northwestern areas, especially western Scotland where the rain will turn heavy and persistent. However, we'll see increasing cloud breaks through the Midlands, southern and southeastern parts of England, with temperatures here reaching 15 or even 16 Celsius, so remarkably mild for the time of year. Even where we've got the rain towards the northwest, temperatures will be in the double figures, milder for much of Scotland compared with a lot of the weather so far this year. But it's a dreary end of the day for the Northern Isles into the north and northwest of Scotland. The heaviest rain will be over the West Highlands, but not much rain at all for the east and south of Scotland, just a few spits and spots. Northern Ireland, this west-east divide sets up with western parts seeing some rain, eastern areas mostly dry. Areas of cloud running through Wales and western England, but largely dry here, whilst the clearest skies overnight will be through the Midlands, the south and southeast of England. Some mist and fog to wake up to on Wednesday morning, but otherwise it's a largely dry and bright start once again for much of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing that thicker cloud and those outbreaks of rain into Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Eventually those spells of rain will push into Wales and western England. This is a slow-moving weather front, but a damp day for many northern western parts of the country tomorrow. Meanwhile, plenty of sunshine for the East Midlands, East Anglia and the South East, and it's here where the highest temperatures will be. 17 Celsius most likely. There's a chance we'll see highs of 18 to 19 degrees.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M8 eastbound at junction 20, a broken down vehicle is partly blocking the carriageway. On the M6 northbound between junction 16 and junction 17, one lane is shut due to a stranded vehicle, with recovery expected around 10:30 this morning. On the M25 clockwise exit slip at junction 30, another breakdown has closed one lane, anticipated to be cleared by 10:44 this morning. Regarding rail updates, the Gatwick Express has no service, while the Elizabeth line experiences disruptions between Reading and London Paddington. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Okay. The time is 10:38. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Miriam. Miriam's back after a nice break. And we've been getting lots of texts, tweets and emails on gbnews.com/you'll say, which Miriam has to read because I don't know how to.
Well, the reason I'm looking at my phone, I'm not being rude and ignoring Andrew or the viewers. I'm checking the your says because I can't get them on my computer at the moment.
It's modern technology, see,
exactly.
Well, we just have to talk to each other.
What I really need is a pigeon to fly in with a piece of paper
exactly. So
and everything.
Keep sending the messages in, and when we've cracked it, we'll share them
we'll
with
let you know.
And don't forget, coming up, we've got Shamima Begum is making a speech later today on a very important subject. It's children who've taken their own lives as a result of terrible things they've seen on social media. How come the parents aren't automatically entitled to see what their children were looking at? That's what she's talking about.
Well, lots of comments, of course, on the Shamima Begum case, and pretty unanimous. No, absolutely not. Sharon says she may have been a naive 15-year-old, but she's now a very dangerous woman and should never be allowed back. Kay says absolutely no way should Begum be allowed to step foot back on British soil. Now, Simon says, talking about Ukraine, of course, it is the 4th anniversary today of Russian invasion of Ukraine. Simon says, Starmer to stand by Ukraine for however long it takes. Shame he ignores the people of this country in preference. I mean, it is a really interesting debate, this, isn't it? Because back in 2022, when Boris Johnson promised to support Zelensky for as long as possible, but Ukraine is in a far worse position than it was then. It was going to have to give up far more land than it did then.
And I imagine when Johnson made that pledge, call me a cynic, he probably thought the war would be over in a couple of months. Because that's what most people thought. And
he possibly thought that supporting Ukraine would be popular when he was facing a lot of domestic difficulty at the same time.
As we know, prime ministers are never here, because they like being abroad because they think it raises their profile.
Well, prime ministers tend to be more popular in other countries.
Yes, they do. Now, a travel company is urging schools to group inset days together so families can enjoy cheaper holidays.
Well, last year, the average package getaway was 20% higher in cost during school breaks, and a whopping 460,000 fines were issued for taking children out of school during term time.
So could grouping inset days keep students in the classroom?
Well, we're now joined by the principal of Python Hill Academy, Andy Sterland. Andy, good morning to you. Welcome to the programme. Did you enjoy your half-term break last week?
Absolutely did, thank you, yes.
So what's your view on this idea of moving inset days together to find different weeks that parents can take holiday? Great idea, or will the travel companies just cotton on and raise their prices anyway?
Well, I absolutely support On the Beaches campaign to get parents to write to head teachers. We've been doing this for 7 years, and I think this campaign is absolutely a brilliant one.
So what you group all your inset days in 1 week, Andy, do you?
Yes, we have all our inset days in 1 week. Straight after May half-term holiday, we have inset week. It really works for us, and it gives our parents the opportunities to have a much-needed family holiday at a cheaper and more affordable price.
But can we just jump in, Andy? We're cynically suggesting here, cynical old hack like me, don't the travel companies think, oh, let's whack the prices up?
You can save, sort of our families are saving like £1,000 sometimes, on going during inset week because it's officially a term time week.
Yeah. But I think Andrew's point is that if everybody did that, Andy, then if all schools across the country chose to extend the May half-term by a week, for example, you'd have to do it near the summer, there'd be no point doing it in the winter, then surely the travel companies would just respond by putting the prices up. But if schools didn't all opt for the same week, you'd have this problem where if you have children in different schools or in different local authorities, you then wouldn't be able to take advantage of that additional time off.
I think you probably have to talk to On the Beach about that. It's their campaign. I just know it works massively for us at the moment, and I do believe that as part of the campaign, it's to send them out around different areas at different times of the year.
Yeah.
Does it suit the teachers as well, Andy? How does it work for them, having it all grouped in 1 week?
Yeah, in terms of our training, Andrew, it's. We do our sessions in twilight sessions, much smaller times, so 2-hour sessions. An inset day is typically 6 hours. So teachers, cognitive overload for teachers actually doing training for 6 hours at a time.
So you don't do any training in that week?
No, we don't.
So it's an extra week off for the teachers?
It's not a week. Well, yes, they get that week, but they make up their time. Their hours are made up for that inset week through twilight sessions throughout the year, so that we can do shorter bursts of training for our staff that then they can then go and take it back into classroom the very next day.
So that means, Andy, the teachers could be on the beach next to the kids.
At half the price?
Yes.
A cheaper holiday.
For half the price, absolutely.
Is this campaign run by teachers by any chance?
Well, we've been doing it for 7 years, and for us, it's great. You know, it's also helping children's attendance in schools.
Well, we used to live in Sheffield, and a number of years ago, they started having a fixed Easter holiday, which is different to most of the country. And we did absolutely find that there was often a week at Easter that wasn't the holidays in most of the year, and it did make for much cheaper holidays. I think there's a really good reason for doing this. But do you think that we should also ask questions about fining parents for taking the odd day or two off school during the school year?
It's a very contentious issue, fining, isn't it? Because you know, we need to get attendance up. Children need to be in school. Every moment is a learning moment, is a school day. It is a very contentious thing, and I think this inset week does help parents. You know, they can get this cheaper price. They can afford a holiday. They're entitled to have a holiday with their children, aren't they? And for some families, it's the difference between having and not having a holiday.
But for other families,
there's no fine attached to it.
But for some families, I'm just playing devil's advocate here because, you know, I've certainly taken advantage of things like this myself. And I used to be a teacher, so I can absolutely see the advantage of it. But for some families who can't afford a holiday at all, this is another week where they may have to find childcare or even not work and lose pay because essentially they're children at home when normally they would be at school.
Yeah, it could. I mean, our experience here is that you would have to find those 5 days anyway, wouldn't you? But you're finding them throughout.
Yes, but the odd day you can farm children out to grandparents or neighbours. It's much more difficult when it's a whole week.
It could be for some parents, and I think the benefits, it's like anything, there's pros and cons for anything. There's lots of benefits for lots of parents. There may be some cons for some parents as well.
Have you booked your inset week's holiday, Andy? Where are you going?
I haven't, no. I haven't, not yet, no.
OK. Staying in England or going abroad?
I should be in England in that week.
Very good, very good, very nice. Well, how nice to talk to you, Andy. Well, Andy Sterling, principal of Python Hill Academy, where it seems to work very well for.
I think there's something for everybody in this campaign.
Yeah. What a nice bloke too, wasn't it?
I mean, there's quite a lot of talk, particularly in America, actually, about reducing the length of the summer holiday because it's just such a big chunk of time for parents. And it was designed around harvest, when children were needed to bring in the harvest. That's why they have a long summer holiday, which obviously is not relevant anymore.
So dated now, isn't it? Yeah. We've got a combine harvester now, of course. Now, up next, talking of farming, we're going live to the National Farmers Conference. We're going to speak to a few of the farmers there. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Spring is certainly in the air across many parts of Europe, warm and sunny, but for Cyprus, for parts of Greece, remaining reasonably breezy, some high wind gusts certainly through the Greek islands, and plenty of showers for the islands of Greece as well as Cyprus. Meanwhile, Italy, for much of France into Spain and Portugal, long spells of sunshine with the exception of Portugal on Wednesday, and well above average temperatures, and it remains that way for the rest of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. It's 9 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, we're going to go to the National Farmers Union, which is holding their annual conference in Birmingham today, where we have got our national news reporter, Jack Carson's there. Jack.
Thank you very much. Well, we've just had Tom Bradshaw, the NFU President, opening speech in the hall. He talked about how we can't ignore, he said, what has happened in the last 2 years, talking about a difficult period for us all, saying that the pressure was financial, physical and psychological on the agricultural industry. Well, I'm delighted to say we are joined by Rob Davies, who's a dairy farmer in Herefordshire, I believe.
That's correct.
What is life like at the moment as a farmer, as we reflect on being here a year later after what was a conference very much focused on the inheritance tax last year?
Yeah, well, it's been a very challenging time. The last 18 months has been very intense. Tom Bradshaw has steered us through that and has dealt with the politicians, government at the highest level, and has secured some movement on IHT. The whole environment in which we're operating in is very challenging, and he alluded to an awful lot of that. We've got environmental challenges coming down the road towards us. We've got labour availability coming down the road towards us. But one of the things that he did say was that he would be pressurising the Secretary of State to deliver on her promise of making farming profitable, because at the end of the day, it's profit that drives sustainability, and you cannot be in the green if you're in the red.
And I suppose confidence comes with that as well. How much confidence have you got, in investment longer term as a farmer?
If the politicians deliver on what they've promised to deliver, then I think confidence will return. Confidence is at an all-time low. We've been hit very, very hard by some extremely hostile policies coming out of Westminster. But I think given the right environment, with the right direction of travel on planning policy particularly, that will free up investment, and investment on farms leads to food security, and also investment on farms leads to investment within a wider manufacturing environment. It's excellent for the UK economy.
So just quickly then, the Secretary of State speaking later, just very quickly, what are some of the things she could say to help you get that confidence back?
So the Secretary of State could talk around delivering on planning policy, removing the red tape, making it easier for farms to invest in modern facilities to deliver the environmental returns that we need to deliver, along with the animal welfare returns that we need to deliver, and again, driving profitability. Profitability is at the core of everything we do.
All right, Rob Davies, dairy farmer in Herefordshire, thank you so much for joining us here this morning at the NFU conference as it gets underway here in Birmingham.
Jack, thank you very much for that. Well, plenty more to come on Britain's Newsroom. Reform's Richard Tice is going to set out his plan to launch a super department for business and economics. Isn't that Robert Jenrick's said?
This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud across the UK today, but some sunshine will come through, especially for central and eastern parts of the country where it will be very mild for the time of year. A brisk south to southwesterly wind continues and that will bring a bit more rain by the afternoon into northwestern areas, especially western Scotland where the rain will turn heavy and persistent. However, we'll see increasing cloud breaks through the Midlands, southern and southeastern parts of England, with temperatures here reaching 15 or even 16 Celsius, so remarkably mild for the time of year. Even where we've got the rain towards the northwest, temperatures will be in the double figures, milder for much of Scotland compared with a lot of the weather so far this year. But it's a dreary end of the day for the Northern Isles into the north and northwest of Scotland. The heaviest rain will be over the West Highlands, but not much rain at all for the east and south of Scotland, just a few spits and spots. Northern Ireland, this west-east divide sets up with western parts seeing some rain, eastern areas mostly dry. Areas of cloud running through Wales and western England, but largely dry here, whilst the clearest skies overnight will be through the Midlands, the south and southeast of England. Some mist and fog to wake up to on Wednesday morning, but otherwise it's largely dry and bright start once again for much of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing that thicker cloud and those outbreaks of rain into Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Eventually those spells of rain will push into Wales and western England. This is a slow-moving weather front, but a damp day for many northern and western parts of the country tomorrow. Meanwhile, plenty of sunshine for the East Midlands, East Anglia and the South East, and it's here where the highest temperatures will be. 17 Celsius most likely. There's a chance we'll see highs of 18 to 19 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win £30,000 in tax-free cash. You wouldn't need to treat yourself to a holiday. There's also a terrific £10,000 to spend on a Riviera travel holiday of a lifetime for two. So whether you fancy a cruise or an escorted tour, you'll have over 30 worldwide destinations to choose from. But you have to hurry because time is ticking.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
It's 11 o'clock on Tuesday, the 24th of February, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, Lord Mandelson has been released on bail following his arrest on suspicion of misconduct in public office.
I am a fighter and not a quitter.
That was Mandelson being re-elected as an MP in Hartlepool in 2001. But will Starmer fight on or quit over this scandal? Of course he won't quit, even though the Lib Dem leader, Sir Ed Davey, says he should go now.
The fact that the Prime Minister has admitted that he knew that Mandelson continued his relationship with Epstein even after Epstein had become a convicted paedophile raises huge questions about the Prime Minister's judgment.
Well, some breaking news this morning. Russell Bland has pleaded not guilty to 2 sexual offences at Southwark Crown Court this morning.
And will there be a small boat for Shamima? New reports today claim the ISIS bride Shamima Begum is planning to use people smugglers to get back to Britain illegally.
We can re-industrialise Britain. We can re-energise Britain. We can renew Britain. And yes, we can rebuild Britain.
Well, this morning, Reform UK's head of business, trade and energy, Richard Tice, sets out his plan to get Britain booming.
Centering victims in our criminal justice system.
That's David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, setting out his plans to cut the huge court backlogs and showing how AI will help him do so.
So much chat on our gbnews.com. Your say this morning about Shamima Begum, I think is absolutely unanimous. She should not come back to Britain. And I think the initial plan was to say that she should go to Bangladesh. I think both her parents were Bangladeshi.
Yeah.
But of course, the Bangladesh government says, nope, she's not welcome here. She's not going to have a Bangladeshi passport.
Of course, she had her citizenship revoked, didn't she, by, it was, who was the cabinet minister?
Sajid Javid, I think.
Javid.
Yep.
Sajid Javid, who hasn't told us what he saw, but he said if we saw what he saw when he made that decision, you'd make your eyes water.
Now, of course, this doesn't apply to many people in the world, but what do you do with people who are effectively stateless? And whilst ISIS was in control of large swathes of Syria, it was possible to contain her, but that's not the case any longer. Something has to be decided, and it is really difficult. Some people would argue that we're better off keeping her in prison in this country, perhaps for life, under lock and key. Of course, it's expensive. But is it better to have her where we can see her?
Has she been de-radicalised?
Well, no. I'm not sure anybody's ever de-radicalised. Nobody would ever believe it if she was. No. But it's a difficult question. And if she were to make it here on a small boat, I mean, that would...
Wow.
It would be the epitome of everything that's wrong with our system.
It really would. Now we're going to cross live to Birmingham to Reform's conference where Richard Tice is due to speak. But first, Nigel Farage has got the floor.
Tin, lead, zinc, nickel. I used to come and visit the West Midlands a lot.
I used to go visit the Northwest a lot, the Northeast a lot. Nearly every one of the customers that I was trading with 25 years ago is no longer manufacturing in this country. They've gone. They've closed down. They're part of the industrial massacre that has been taking place in our country. And it continues. And it continues. I remember in 2015 when the primary steel plant in Redcar up in the northeast closed, and a government minister said, well, there's one good thing about this. At least it will reduce our carbon emissions. Well, what happened? Tata moved all of the production to India, where the steel was produced under lower environmental standards, and then the products were shipped halfway across the world back to the UK market. And that is what we've been doing. We've been deluding ourselves that we're reducing CO2 and saving the planet, when actually what we've been doing is exporting CO2 production, exporting UK manufacturing, exporting well-paid, good jobs. And I genuinely fear, that with Mr. Miliband very firmly ensconced in the government, the fanatical rush to net zero is going to make that even worse. We have the highest industrial energy prices in the world, over 4 times the average price of energy in America. And actually in parts of Texas, we're probably 6 to 7 times the unit price cost of electricity for manufacturers, for businesses, let alone the increased cost for consumers. So this is a crazy, crazy period that we're living in. One of absolute self-delusion. And I'm, by the way, not going to pin the blame for this entirely on the Labour Party. After all, it was Boris Johnson who said we were going to become the Saudi Arabia of wind. And Mrs. May, remember her, who wrote net zero into law without there even being a proper debate and vote in Parliament. Despite that, there are companies like this that work hard, do well, and succeed, and good for them. But there should be many, many more of them. And what I want to say on a business front is that unlike the Labour government, and by the way, there's nobody in that cabinet, nobody, who's ever set up a business, who knows what failure is like, well, they do in some regards, but who knows what failure is like and success is like, because that's what business is. You set up a business, you take a risk. There's no guarantee of success. And many people have business failures before they succeed in a big way. That actually is have a go Britain. And I think with people like myself, Zia, Yusuf, who I was with yesterday, and Richard Tice, who you're about to hear from today, at least we've got some people who've been out there in the real world, know how difficult it can be, but actually understand what it is to make the monthly payroll. Right? I know what it's like after a bad month to make the monthly payroll. When the staff are earning still good money and you're earning nothing, you're losing money. I know what it's like. There's no experience of that in government. There's frankly precious little on the opposition benches either. And there are some that will characterize this. Oh, well, of course, reform are on the side of the business owners. Reform aren't on the side of the workers. No, the two are mutually beneficial. It is people taking risk, setting up businesses that succeed, that means those that work in those businesses do well, have good pension pots, and all the rest of it. This idea that you're either on the side of the worker or the business owner, frankly, is outdated. It belongs to a different time, a different political argument. The two work together. What we do know is we will go bust as a country if the public sector continues to grow and the private sector continues to shrink. Now, we did last week lay out the beginnings of our shadow cabinet. The idea was we would dispel with the myth that Reform was a one-man band, to which I always said it's far better than being a no-man band. But we've expanded enormously, and since then we've heard from Robert Jenrick, since then we've heard from Zia Yusuf, and today we're going to hear from the Deputy Leader of Reform, now heading up a big super economics and business department, BTE, business, trade and energy, because they can't work without each other. So ladies and gentlemen, to put some fresh ideas into this country, into investment, into a different approach from government, welcome to the stage, please, Richard Tice.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning. It's great to see you, and thank you, Nigel. And thank you to Glyn, Henry, and all of the team from USP Steel. It's amazing to be here in this factory, this incredibly successful, the largest independent processor of steel. And I feel very sort of passionate about steel. I just want you to picture the scene. A few years ago, I'm at a railway station in deepest rural India. And I look down at the railway tracks, and there are those immortal words, Sheffield Steel, 1895. And a sort of patriotic pride just went through my whole body, from my feet right up to the top of my head. It was extraordinary. I'm not sure we quite have the same patriotic pride now when people say, aren't we good as regulators? And didn't we do well with all our quangos and our compliance departments and our HR departments? I'm not sure that's what we call progress. And maybe that's part of the problem, ladies and gentlemen, because we're now becoming unproductive and our economy is flatlining. It's not growing at all per person. We're actually getting poorer. We're now in recession. And that's why we have to have a completely different approach. Because I think we all know that our economy is broken. 30, 40 years ago, we were growing at 2.5% to sometimes 4% every year. It's a good feeling. But there's no prospect of that if we carry on as we are. And that's why it's right to have a new super department covering business, trade, energy, including industry and housing, because we have to think about this in a joined-up, coordinated, strategic way. And it does make sense that actually you have successful business people who've been around the block a few times, who've succeeded, who've had some challenges, but who know what's required in order to drive growth, profitability. And that's the key difference between Reform and all of the other parties. I've probably got more housing experience than the last 20 housing ministers put together. And I just want to touch on today 4 really important things. Firstly, regulations, trade, energy, and then finally, the opportunity for a huge new British sovereign wealth fund. Now, yes, regulations are not very glamorous. How often do you sit there filling out the forms online, offline, thinking, do I really need to do this? How many days and weeks?
Well, it's a feast of goods. Richard Tice too.
Well, I think it's a very interesting point that Farage made about offshoring manufacturing instead of cutting down on our own CO2 production. Well, let's cross now to another politician who's speaking live, Conservative leader Shamima Begum. She's holding a press conference in Westminster.
Didn't have any mental health problem. She was bubbly, looking forward as any child. Suddenly, we found that she was bullied, cyberbullied, and she passed away. She took her life. 4 months after, I lost my wife. And our fight in my personal state is my wife fight.
So Kemi Badenoch is joined by a panel on stage of bereaved parents whose children lost their lives as a result of social media. And this is an event to talk about the necessity for parents to be able to gain access to their children's social media history after they've died. And we're listening to some of the bereaved parents. We see Laura Trott as well, the Shadow Education Secretary there.
And before we go back, it is outrageous that the parents are having to fight these social media companies to get this information.
Absolutely. Some of the parents have no idea what their children were looking at in their final hours, and the tech companies extraordinarily are refusing to release that information. Let's go back to the panel now where some of the parents are speaking.
Through their mobile phones. We as parents had no idea of the harms that existed on social media, and we along with many families within the country are working to highlight the dangers of social media to young children, schools and other parents. Unfortunately, Ollie was a very trusting child, and he got into a friendship group, which was toxic. He did not realise it was toxic. He was groomed, bullied. They were abusing him behind his back on social media. He was lured out of the house and he was murdered by children, 13 years old. As you're aware, a lot of the families here self-harm, and I hate the word suicide because it's not suicide. They are bullied and they are groomed into positions where they will take their life because they are frightened of consequences that someone else is threatening them with. Or, as Lisa and Holly, the blackout challenge. Jules, very possibly the blackout challenge. These challenges are fed to children as a game, as fun. This is not the case. They do not understand the harms they are letting themselves into. So part of this panel, part of these amazing people, we are highlighting as much and as best as we can as grieving parents to let other parents know that social media is harmful. We've been campaigning for 5 years. We have tried to get these social media companies to engage with us to change their ways. There should be safety by design, but it's not happening. There is too much money being made. So the only alternative we have is to ask for a ban. And this should be a complete ban for children under 16. Just ask a teacher with what they're dealing with in schools, in primary schools even, because of social media. They need to have education first before they step into that world. A lot of adults can't deal with social media, the trouble they get into. Why should it be there for children? Why should it be there for under 16s?
Exactly. Can I thank you all for sharing your stories? It is incredibly brave of you to be speaking publicly like this. Thank you for sticking your heads above the parapet. I think what we're really trying to do is show the level of devastation that is being caused. There is an assumption out there that it's just happened to a few children. The numbers of bereaved families are growing every single day, and it's lots of different harms. It's cyberbullying, it's blackmail, threats, dangerous challenges and murder, as we have seen. This is not about a moral panic. This is real, and we need to do something about it. This can happen to any child. As the parents have said, these were not children who had issues. For those parents who think, oh, this isn't going to happen to my child is fine. No child is safe. We don't know who will be harmed by this. And the worst outcome, I think Laura will speak on this in a moment, is that parents don't even have the data. They're not allowed to see exactly what went on. This is what we want to change. So I'm going to bring in Laura Trott, who's the Shadow Secretary of State, to talk more about how we can solve this issue and what we are asking the government to do.
Thank you, Kemi. And I also just want to say how much I admire all the parents on this panel today, because they've taken every parent's worst nightmare and turned it into a campaign to actually help other people. Now, I really want to stress, this can happen to any parent. Any parent watching this today needs to be afraid for what their child is looking at online. And the government simply is not acting in response to these dangers to our children. They've promised a consultation, but it's not a consultation on how to do a social media ban. It's a consultation on if they should do one at all. They've said they're going to be decisive when they decide what to do. That is appalling and an insult to the many campaigners who have fought for so hard and for so long. It is clear that the government does not understand the urgency of the task which is in front of us. But we do. And we have a vote which is coming up in the House of Commons in a couple of weeks. And I know there are brave MPs on all sides of the House who are willing to step up, to defy the whip if necessary, to protect children. Because what we've heard today is that social media isn't safe. We can't make it safe. We tried to make it safe. We tried to police content. It has not worked. But what we know we can do is police age. This has worked elsewhere. It will work here. It will make a difference. It won't capture every single child. We know children get around the alcohol ban. You know, they occasionally will sneak a cigarette if they're underage. But it will deter the majority, and that can make a difference. So I'm so grateful to the bereaved parents today. I'm so grateful that they've spoken up, because I hope for all of you, it helps you to understand just how bad this situation is, and we need to do something about it. So I do hope that all parties come together in a couple of weeks and actually vote to make a real difference, rather than another consultation that has nothing in it, which is really going to respond to the urgent situation that we're in.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Laura. I'd now like to open the panel up to questions. Why don't we start with Keith Bayes from GBNews.
Badenoch, we've heard about the dangers of social media today from parents and from families, quite literally tearing them apart. What more can you do to make social media companies engage and protect Britain's children? And if I may, a second on Lord Mandelson and Keir Starmer. The Prime Minister has performed 16 U-turns. His personal approval rating is some of the lowest we've seen in modern British political history. His man in Washington has now been arrested and questioned by police. Is it time to bring a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister? Do you believe that, given that the Prime Minister's judgment is under serious question? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keith. So you asked about getting the social media companies to engage. I think that the tide is turning. It's very clear that they have been lobbying hard to stop this from happening. If we can show a united front, present a cross-party effort, it's quite important that this is cross-party, so they know that there's nowhere for them to turn. I think we can actually start forcing them to think about how to implement this, rather than saying it's not workable. It is workable, it is possible, and we don't need mandatory digital ID. There are loads of other ways in order to create this. If we show the social media that this is where politics is going, there's no room for them to hide lobbying certain parties and so on. I think that they will be forced to engage on the terms which the parents here have been trying to get them to do for so long. On Lord Mandelson, I think the pictures of him being arrested yesterday will be a defining moment in Keir Starmer's premiership. February 2025, Keir Starmer was, calling him, our Peter, and saying what a wonderful man he is, despite everything that he knew about Lord Mandelson. This comes back again to the Prime Minister's judgment, again and again, multiple U-turns. I'm hoping that we can get him to U-turn on his social media policy. We've got him to U-turn on a few other things. So my next mission is to get him to U-turn on the age limit for social media, so we can bring this ban in for children. Let adults do what they want on social media, but children, we need to bring them off it. Thank you. Lucy McDade from Sky News.
Badenoch, you've made very explicit that you do want to ban social media for under 16s. But what if the evidence from places like...
Well, we're going to leave that press conference there and go back
this
to
veritable
Birmingham.
Feast of goods.
Makes it by a factor of two, the
we're going to go back to Reform's Head of Business, Trade and Energy, Richard Tice, who's still speaking, and of course, Reform UK leader.
And when I was in the property world, we used to love selling to county council pension schemes. They were known as the sucker of last resort. No surprise they're not meeting the benchmark. We can change all of that because we can be poacher turned gamekeeper, acting on behalf of the British taxpayer. And one of the reasons, of course, they're underperforming is because they're investing in a whole load of woke nonsense. And when I look today, one of these funds, investing in a sustainable equity fund, missing its benchmark, not by 0.5% or 1%, by 5% in 1 year. This is insanity. Instead, we can transform this into a British sovereign wealth fund, proudly paying all of the members and pensioners, of course, whilst patriotically backing Britain all of the way. And of course, the rights, the benefits and the entitlements of all of the existing members, absolutely rock solid, identical. In fact, they're even more protected under this proposal. But there's already a huge surplus in these funds. The liabilities are under £300 billion. And what we should do is we should, of course, look after the existing members, but say to new employees of councils, you'll join a new defined contribution scheme akin to the best of the FTSE 100 pension schemes. That, of course, makes sense. So by closing these schemes to new joiners, the liabilities over a few decades reduce, and that is the right thing to do. What it also does, that allows one to cut the existing employer contributions on the existing council funds to around 10%, saving councils millions and millions and millions of pounds every single year. And as head of Doge, that's what, of course, we're very focused on. Our good friends, the press, rarely want to point that out, but these are the sort of savings that we can do because we are best in class. This sovereign wealth fund will have the best in class professionals running it. And it might be invested, rather like the Norwegian fund, in 75% equities, mainly listed, some unlisted. About a third of that could be in the UK. That would be an increase of over £100 billion of investments into the UK stock market, which would mean more confidence, higher valuations, more new listings. That keeps businesses growing here. You know, the growth capital, absolutely vital. 10% could be invested in UK bonds, and then 15% could be invested in local infrastructure and hundreds of thousands of affordable homes across our towns, our villages, our local areas, and our regions. For each of these funds, that could be, on average, up to £1 billion of extra renewal and regeneration investment in just a matter of a few years. That's the opportunity, as well as, coming back to steel, the opportunity to invest in some critical strategic national assets like the importance of primary steel, British steel. And that's why this fund could actually own British steel. It could renew, reline, refurbish those 2 blast furnaces ready for the next 60 years. That's how we can ensure that great businesses like this one are buying British steel and not steel from overseas. That surely is the right thing to do. This sovereign wealth fund, it could generate an annual surplus of between 20 and 30 billion pounds a year for more investment into growth companies, for more investment into renewal and regeneration across our regions. This is such a huge opportunity. It's an absolute game changer. This could be one of our greatest legacies that reform essentially brings to the United Kingdom. It'll drive prosperity, it'll drive growth. But I guess we won't satisfy everybody. I guess there'll be a few people who may not like this idea. I just ask you to think about what's their interest? What are their vested interests? Are they making money by actually ripping off the British taxpayer? Well, we're looking after the British taxpayer, as Robert said last week. We will look after your money. And this is one of the right ways to do it. So in summary, ladies and gentlemen, the opportunity for a huge new economics and business department covering business, trade and energy. The opportunity to reindustrialise Britain with bold British companies. The opportunity to re-motivate Britain with the brightest British entrepreneurs, to re-energise Britain with beautiful British oil and gas, marvellous, and to rebuild and renew Britain with this British sovereign wealth fund. This is the way forward. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the best vision with the best people. It's the best plan. If we do this, we can make our families more prosperous, we can make our communities more prosperous and our country more prosperous. Family, community, country, the core values of reform. Because we all know this is the only way to fix our broken economy. And only reform can fix broken Britain. Thank you very much.
So that was Richard Tice, who's got this very big title. I can't quite remember what it is. Business...
Energy,
trade. And, of course, is he deputy leader?
I think he is. So he would be Deputy Prime Minister, should reform
win the election. So, Kevin, can reform solve the country's problems? Because there are quite a lot of problems at the moment under your lot.
I think they might create some more problems, actually. I think that's probably more like it. I mean, first of all, they're going to strip away workers' rights. I can't see how that is going to help them win votes in the North East and North West of England and the Midlands and South Wales.
So you can't go to an industrial tribunal on day one claiming unfair dismissal.
Yeah, I was just saying, which workers' rights are they going to strip away that's so terrible?
Well, it's 6 months, actually. You'd have to...
But which are they going to strip away?
You're reducing the amount of time you qualify against unfair dismissal from 2 years to 6 months. Now, if you change a job, you could be a perfectly good worker. Where's the incentive to change a job and go for another job if you're going to lose your rights?
Where's the incentive for the employer to take on
you can think
people
of the
that are going
employers.
to absolutely...
It's rights and responsibilities and getting the balance right and having to work 2 years before you get rights against unfair dismissal. Not dismissal,
but we live in
unfair
a
dismissal is
society
terrible.
now. We live in a society now which is entitled, and everybody thinks they have a right to
You sound like an entitled employer.
Without doing anything. And so they feel that they can start a job, and if they don't quite like it, they turn up late every day. No one can tell them anything, and they deserve the right to challenge
You can dismiss that person because of poor timekeeping, and you can do it legally.
Kevin, you see the employer... You always think of employers as some great big multinational employing thousands of people. Most employers in this country employ 3 or 4 people.
They do.
These onerous rights being imposed on us via the late, great Angela Rayner are going to put huge costs on these small companies.
We're catching up with the more decent economies, better economies than our own. If you've got to have rights and you've got to have responsibilities. You've got a right to be treated well, and your responsibility is to go to work and do your job.
The problem is, Vinay, we're in a very unusual position in this country, which is that we have a shortage of workers in one sense because the birth rate's so low. We're just not producing enough young people to take the place of those.
We also have a million of those young people.
We also have lots of people, not just young people of all ages who are not employed and being paid benefits and no requirement to work.
Well, there's a million.
We've had mass immigration, but then we've also got rising unemployment now because of the bureaucracy, the tax. So we don't need more workers' rights. There's not a problem in terms of workers' rights. There's much more...
You'll get your say in a minute,
And we have coming down the line AI, which is already laying off people. We're going to have more and more people unemployed and unemployable because whatever the AI big bots say, where they say, oh, they'll just lose all of their boring jobs and they'll do a more interesting job. If they could do a more interesting job, they'd be doing it.
And no less a figure than Alan Milburn, former Labour cabinet minister under Blair, who's been brought back by Mark Starmer to run one of his many things.
He's the employment czar.
Yeah, but he talked only yesterday about what's happening with 1 million people not in employment, training, education, 18 to 25 young people. And he said that it's a dependency culture, and he thinks it will damage them for life, and he said it's going to get worse with AI, and unemployment, we now know, is being predicted to go even higher.
It's bad for those young people who are kind of lost. It's bad for communities, and it's bad for the economy. You've got to get them into work, but you don't get them into work by thinking they're just slaves. Look, you give people decent rights and a decent rate of pay, you're more likely to get them into work.
So decent rate of pay, very important. Now, the problem is, though, that if you raise the minimum wage to so close to the median wage, you lose all the kind of differentiation between low-paid jobs and middle-paid jobs. Employers then can't promote people, and you have this problem where it's just not worth taking people on.
And you know what the biggest incentive
but you have to pay to do it.
Do you know what the biggest incentive is to get those people back to work? Not having a cheque that's put through their door every week. Having no money is a massive incentive to go and take a job.
What, you mean not having an unemployment cheque?
You mean get a big stick to beat them? Is that what you mean?
Well, Kevin, do you really think it's working at the moment?
Kevin, we've got so many young people who are off work because they're feeling a little bit anxious or a little bit down. Everyone on this panel would have gone to work and just sucked it up.
You can demonise them all and scaremonger like that if you like, but there's been a persistent problem with some young people that, of course, if you don't work in your 20s, you're less likely to work in your 30s, and your 40s, and your 50s.
Kevin,
and he's right, Milburn.
Is it demonising?
But you're not going to fix it by giving them worse rights.
Well,
that's what I'm arguing. You think treating people badly is a magic solution?
Because we shouldn't treat people badly.
Well, why do you want to?
But what we're saying is that the costs of not working are now too low compared to the benefits of... So you're saying we're demonising people, but actually, isn't this just an understanding of human nature? If you give someone the opportunity to be idle and paid for it, many people will take that. That's not demonising anybody. That's human nature. We all know what that's about. And we now have a system that does reward idleness.
You will know.
So why are we surprised?
You will know the benefit system is operated now essentially the way it was when your party was in power for 14... Well, what's worse about it now?
Because in COVID, we lost face-to-face appointments.
That was your period.
Yes, absolutely.
Never been reinstated.
But that has... I am not absolving the Conservatives' blame, don't get me wrong. But under Labour, we've seen even more people paid to be off work, and the benefits bill is increasing. Or both parties should take the blame, I absolutely agree. But what I'm saying is we've now got this position where 1 million people would be better off giving up work and being on benefits. That's statistics from the Centre for Social Justice. That is untenable.
And that's a terrible indictment of low pay in the British economy.
That's
what it is. You've got to make...
Because
you've got
small businesses who are hardly making a profit.
You've got to make
force them to pay more money?
pay. We make work pay.
By stopping benefits paying.
Kevin, the problem is that we are subsidising all of the big corporations in this country to pay people low pay. I agree with you.
Well,
so we could sort that out, but we won't because it's all the big corporations.
Kevin hates the word, but I have to use it. The benefit system encourages shirkers.
Yes.
No, it doesn't.
There you are.
Kevin, I know somebody. This is not through my work.
You
This
can
is
get
personally.
individual cases.
No, there's lots of them. I'm a GP. I sit and meet these people every day.
Trust me, I'm a doctor.
Yes.
So am I, actually.
You're not
I've got a doctor.
Oh, God.
An honorary one.
Faux one.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
just call me Doc.
If I have a heart attack, which is probably like the way you carry on in that podcast, I want Renee to look after me, not you, Maguire.
If you're on an aeroplane, there's a doctor on board is called. I think you'd rather have Renee than me. I get that.
Kevin Maguire.
But I couldn't help him.
To write the story.
Exactly.
I could help him write
I'd write it before I keel over, don't you worry.
Here's your will, I'll help it, yeah.
Now, is there a light note before we can cheer... Can we be cheerful on a light note about something? We probably can't.
Is there any light news?
Can we just say how extraordinary that somebody from the BBC, a BAFTA judge, has resigned. How did they put that swear word out?
Oh,
it was
ridiculous.
There was
Absolutely
a delay,
ridiculous.
and the N-word went out, and yet pro-Palestine stuff was blocked out.
So they proved that they can edit it, and they chose not to for 16 hours. Additionally, they apologised to the audience for the profanity, but not to the two black men on the stage.
Extraordinary.
It's absolutely extraordinary. And I've got people saying to me online, "Oh, look, no, we should educate people about Tourette's," but we don't. We don't let people to swear in any context.
Particularly offensive word. When they bleep it out, but Kevin, they put it out later.
You know what they say is the people who are doing the editing weren't in the hall, so didn't hear it. And when they were in the editing suite, which I imagine is a truck or a room
was there nobody?
They just fast-forwarded it.
So nobody in the BBC, which employs 22,000 people, thought to say to people in the editing suite, sort this out, get rid of it.
It does seem quite credible this is a human error, because why would you do this deliberately?
You wouldn't.
There must be some... I mean, obviously, somebody has to be held responsible, but it must be an error.
But a judge has resigned over it.
Yeah, that's
a judge.
But you need a system that makes sure if that happens again, it doesn't go out.
But there was
it should have been there in the first place.
There was a system, as Andrew says, to edit out the pro-Palestine bit.
Yeah, that was heard because that was part of a speech. This was a heckle. Well, it wasn't a heckle. It was an involuntary offence. It was slur.
But they apologised immediately.
Yeah, but that was it.
But there was a miscommunication, possibly.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrible. It's not good enough.
And I also think that people that are lambasting John for doing it are awful. This man has Tourette's.
Yeah.
This is not his fault.
It's mortifying.
He feels awful. He's mortifying. He's had a terrible life because of this. The people at fault here are the BBC.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
They're in the dock again.
Well,
You're pleased about that, aren't you? Yeah.
Both to our
That's your uplifting bright end.
We haven't even got on to the licence fee. £1 billion worth of people didn't pay their licence fee last year. I'm not surprised.
Save that one for next week.
Yes.
Well, on that note of agreement, stick with us because still to come.
Justice Secretary David Lammy, he's the one who wants to restrict rights to juries. He's going to set out his master plan to cut court backlogs. And by the way, Mr Lammy, cutting jury trials will not help. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. For many, it is going to be turning increasingly bright, increasingly sunny as we go through today, but a different story towards the northwest. Here there is a nagging front that's going to be waving its way through, so fairly cloudy and often quite wet. Some pulses of rain pushing their way in, particularly over western parts of Scotland. Could see some relatively high rainfall totals building up as we go through today and into tomorrow. Elsewhere, and like I said, also dry and increasingly sunny weather, particularly across central southern parts of England and much of Wales. And here temperatures are a fair few degrees above average for the time of year. We're looking at highs of around 15, 16 Celsius, maybe a little bit fresher towards the north. And do watch out, there will be some strong winds, particularly over the Pennines, but they'll be easing as we go through the day. So staying pretty wet across much of northern and western Scotland as we go through the evening. The Isle of Skye, for example, seeing the highest rainfall totals perhaps through the next 24 hours. Often quite cloudy across southern Scotland and much of Northern Ireland. A little bit of rain here and there to end the day, but clearer skies across much of England and Wales. And with that then, there's the potential for some fog to develop initially across eastern parts of England, but as we go through the night, some more fog may develop maybe south of the M4 corridor, perhaps seeing some poor visibility issues as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Further north, more cloud, more rain coming in across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Temperatures not dropping a huge amount here. Further south, a little bit fresher. Lows of around 6, 7 Celsius, that kind of thing. Then through tomorrow, cloudy and wet towards the north and the west of the country. Further outbreaks of rain, heaviest towards the west of Scotland. Further south and east, staying drier and sunnier, particularly across parts of East Anglia, London, Kent, for example. And here temperatures are going to be well above average for the time of year. Highs of around 18, possibly 19 Celsius.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're still joined by our panel. Andrew's co-host, and the Pierce versus Maguire.
The shouting match you have in here is nothing that we have on the podcast.
Well,
it's not actually, no.
Actually, it's quite civilised. It is quite civilised.
You can disagree.
I've known him for 38 years, and he's been wrong for 38 years, clearly.
Well, you've always not had an influence. Well, shall we continue discussing today's news? Renee, let's turn to you. Interesting story in the Daily Telegraph. Hugo, my miracle baby from beyond the grave. This is a story of a baby boy who's become the first child in the UK to be born to a mother who received a womb from a dead donor. And we understand that the mother was has a genetic condition where her womb didn't form properly, so she received a donor womb. What do you think about this story?
I think that this is such a massive ethics quagmire. There are so many things to consider, from the baby in the womb and the immunosuppressants that you have to take when you get somebody else's organ. I mean, a beautiful gift, but you know, nobody knows long-term what effect that will have on the baby. The other thing that worries me about this is where this will go, because we know where it will go. It will go to men having wombs transplanted so that they can have babies. So that if we're going to do this, we need to regulate it so tightly that it is restricted to women like this who really are born without a womb. After that, there's 8,200 people on the NHS waiting for an organ that will stop them from dying, be that a heart or a kidney or a liver. And I just think, where are the NHS priorities? When funding is short, we should be placing it there and encouraging more people to come forward and donate. Donation is a wonderful thing, but I think, as lovely as it is to see a woman with a baby, and I'm all for women having as many babies as they can, I think this is a quagmire that we need to think very carefully about before we take it forward.
The problem with people waiting for kidney, liver, heart transplants is the shortage of kidney, livers and hearts from people. I was a journalist who helped persuade Geoffrey Robinson, who was a Labour MP, to take through the House of Commons a presumed consent bill for England. So if you die, you're presumed to have consented that your kidneys can be used, unless you've specifically said they can't, as Wales had earlier. But that is the problem. So
it's not the problem.
You could stop doing wombs, but it doesn't mean you'll get more
so
kidneys and hearts.
Most of these wombs come from live donors. Kidneys can come from live donors. So there is that. We need more education. We need to encourage people. For example, mixed race and black people are underrepresented on the donor list, and mixed race and black people can only have a donor from someone of that that race. So there's a lot we could do around education here. And I'm sorry, I do think this is a bigger conversation about the NHS, that we need to say we've got a finite amount of money. What do you want to do?
There is, but you were suggesting that was wombs at the costs of other organs when you said there are all these...
No, not at the cost of...
It's not the case.
Well, there is a finite amount of resources in the NHS, so if you focus it down one route, you are by category.
But the problem is not too many people or too many families are allowing kidneys and hearts to be donated.
OK, so the money that's been spent on a womb transplant would do a lot of cataracts for old people waiting, or hips.
How much does it cost?
I have
There's no figure in
This
that
is going to be into the tens, if not hundreds.
It has already, in India, it has already been tried a number of times to transplant a womb into a man. This is not hypothetical. It has been tried. So absolutely. My problem with this is, a kidney is just a body part. A liver is just a body part. Anything to do with reproduction is not just a body part. The creation of a new life is more than just a laboratory process. And when you splinter motherhood into eggs, wombs, all these other things, you ultimately sever that vital link between mother and baby, and that is my problem with this. It's just one step further from
looking at the pictures and what I've read. I think there's a terrific bond between this woman and her baby.
We do not know what happens.
I just can't. Look, I'm just very happy for them. I am, I think medical science moving on is one of the great successes of our age.
If it was £250,000, wouldn't you have rather that was spent on something else in the NHS?
Yes. Arguably. Yeah. However, medical science will move ahead by operations such as this and what they learn, and it'll be transferred across to other organs. As other organs will have been transferred across to this in the sense of
physically repulsed that they're trying in India to do this with men.
They'll
physically
try
repulsive.
it here too.
Well, that sounds like Frankenstein,
doesn't it?
This isn't.
But it is. Hang on a minute, Kevin.
What, it's a Frankenstein baby? No, it's not. It's a lovely little kid.
Kevin, we take women and men, healthy women and men, and we chop off their penis or make them a new one. Is that not Frankenstein?
Well, if people wish to well, it is. People can have tattoos. You can do what you like to your body.
If that man then wishes to have a womb and have a baby, is that OK?
No, that's different.
Why is it different?
The idea that you can...
Would the law have to change?
One, it won't be biologically possible.
Not for this, but it's a very similar ethically to surrogacy, and the problem with surrogacy is that people are paying women to carry a child that then they have to give up at birth. And in this country, it's illegal to even take a puppy off its mother before it's weaned. And yes, it's absolutely legal to remove a baby from its mother at birth. That's not ethical.
You miserable people. I'm very happy for the mother and the child and the family.
Absolutely, and this is the problem. It's very hard to say no on an individual basis, isn't it?
I hope they have a very happy life.
She now has to have that when we've moved, doesn't she?
Yes.
It's not long term.
Oh, because it would die.
And also, what about the pressure it does place on living women, let's say on a woman, to donate a womb to a sister?
Can I just say that's not unusual, transplanted organs. Hearts only have a certain lifespan too, sadly. knowing somebody who had a heart transplant.
Yeah. How did it come about? I mean, who recommended it? Who came up with this idea?
Oh, look, there are
they've been trying
scientists
for a
who want to do
long
all
time.
that.
Yeah, but there are strict regulations. You can't just do whatever you want.
I mean, that was one of those when I thought, God, this happened in Britain.
Yeah.
If you look at the reproductive industry in general, unfortunately, there aren't strict regulations. And one of the problems is that Human Fertility and Embryology Agency, is it called HFEA? It does not have parliamentary oversight. And so it's only a matter of time before something very Frankenstein-y does take place in this country. And I would argue that it should have parliamentary oversight. Parliament should decide what these organisations are and are not allowed to experiment on. But unfortunately, we don't have that at the moment. They're marking their own homework.
I wouldn't object to parliamentary oversight, but I also salute and cheer medical advances.
Well, we're never going to agree on that one.
Not sure it's advance for humanity.
We are waiting, of course, for the big moment of the week. David Lammy, our Justice Secretary, that political titan, much loved by Kevin Mackay, is going to be making a speech this morning, setting out his reforms for the justice system.
Let's hope nobody asks him hard questions, eh?
Which monarch followed Henry VIII? To which he responded, Henry VII. Henry VII was his memorable reply. And which Mary found a cure for cancer? Why Marie Antoinette, he said.
No.
He did. I'm afraid he did.
I bet he struggles to get on pub quiz teams now.
Yeah. He was at the time, of course, the Minister for Further Education. You really couldn't make it out.
No. I mean, there is a serious aspect to this, which is how can anybody who doesn't know history hope to be a successessful politician? But, of course, many politicians don't know anything about history. He's not unique.
Yeah, Henry... It could have... I suppose he could have said Henry IX.
At least that would be logical.
I know. Could have said Henry IX.
Henry 8 3/4.
Yeah, I know. Or 8.1. So you think that the pressure just got to him?
Yeah, it
and
did,
he just didn't know what he was saying. I'm sure that's what happened.
But it does if you do a quiz and you're on the spotlight.
You don't know what you're saying
I did University Challenge, and it is tough.
Did you?
And you're thinking of the answer, and I know the answer, and there's someone who's smarter and faster than you pressing the button.
And in retrospect, you think, I knew that. I knew that.
How did your team do?
Became second.
In the first round. Which was your university, remind me? York University.
It was a so-called celebrity one.
Yeah.
We did. We came second. Yeah.
Right. I'll never be invited to that because I never went. I think we can hear David Lammy, I think. Are we going to cross to David Lammy, who's setting out his justice reforms? Are we? There he is.
Goody.
All right.
And how AI is supporting human judgment to make better use of limited time and resources, which matters hugely for public services across our country. Recently, I visited the Ontario Court of Justice in Toronto. It's a large, modern building, fully paperless, with judge-only trials handing down quick and fair justice for summary and some more serious offences. And above all, it works. And walking through the courthouse, I had the uncomfortable realization. It felt less like a visitor, if you like, from another country, though I was, and more like one from another time, catching a glimpse of what could be a vision of justice designed for the world as it is, not as it was.
Well, we're just going to leave that speech there. Unfortunately, the line is not great, but...
He just briefly mentioned restricting jury trials, and I was talking to a Labour donor recently who said that is the final straw if they do that, because there's been so many disappointments with all the U-turns, winter fuel and all sorts of other stuff. And he said, but if they restrict the right to juries, because they're already pretty much restricted already.
2 to 3% of all trials are jury.
Yeah, so why take those away?
Yeah.
And it's a fig leaf, isn't it? And he said that would be the final straw.
Yeah, and it's also a complete nonsense that it will do anything to speed up what's going on in the courts. Those are baked in, lack of money, lack of investment, bringing in outside people like Serco to transport prisoners, not do it on time.
Also, Renee, the evidence, the cases are longer now because the police provide so much more evidence to go through in the court because of people's phone records and text messages and emails. It's a much more arduous process.
It is, and if it was about rape, they could dictate tonight that all rape trials must happen within a year.
Yeah.
They could just say it.
Yeah, some women are waiting 3 years.
Yeah.
Unacceptable, unforgivable.
There are a lot of moving parts in this, though. You cannot train up quickly new lawyers, new judges. I mean, there's certainly an argument for using court time more efficiently, but it is not an easy problem to solve, but definitely cutting jury trials is not the answer.
No, well, that's David Lammy. So, and of course, we heard a little bit of Kemi Bain. We had quite a lot of speeches today.
Absolutely, we'll have lots of to reflect on tomorrow. At
we
9:30
certainly
when we are
will,
on
and of course, don't
We'll be
forget
back
Lord
then.
Mandelson released on bail in the early hours of this morning. That's it from Britain's Newsroom. We will be back tomorrow. Coming up next, of course, it is
Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana. Have a great show, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you then.
Should social media be banned for people under the age of 16? Is there a suicide epidemic going on? We'll speak to the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
And we'll keep you updated on Peter Mandelson. He's been released on bail. We'll get the latest on that.
Also, justice reforms coming. David Lammy announcing a sweeping set of reforms. Could the right to trial by jury be gone forever? Well, we'll have those questions and more after your latest weather forecast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud across the UK today, but some sunshine will come through, especially for central and eastern parts of the country where it will be very mild for the time of year. A brisk south to southwesterly wind continues and that will bring a bit more rain by the afternoon into northwestern areas, especially western Scotland where the rain will turn